With our son unemployed and at home, to help make ends meet, my husband Jiang Zhouxing arranged for me to work as a live-in caregiver for a gravely ill woman. Later, I stumbled upon a photo album my employer had kept hidden away. Hundreds of photographs chronicled the decades Jiang Zhouxing had spent with her. My hands trembling, I pulled out one of the photos and went to confront Jiang Zhouxing. All I got in return was his cold stare. "Don't you dare confront Rouge, she's not well. And if anything happens to her, you'll have me to answer to." I was shocked by his indifference. Heartbroken, I could only pour out my woes to my son, but my pampered son just looked at me with utter disdain. "Mom, could you please stop making a mountain out of a molehill? You're still on Aunt Bai's payroll. You should be grateful." I was so angry I could spit blood. When I opened my eyes again, I was back to the moment my son was born. The moment my eyes met Jiang Zhouxing's. I knew, he had been reborn too. Jiang Zhouxing stood by the hospital bed, holding our son, his gaze heavy as he looked at me. "Anqing, let's get a divorce." It took me a moment to process the sight of Jiang Zhouxing in his early 20s before I finally came to my senses. I spoke my first words since my rebirth. "Okay." The slight curve of Jiang Zhouxing's lips slowly vanished. His brow furrowed as his scrutinizing gaze swept over me. "You agreed just like that. What's gotten into you?" I met his icy gaze. "Isn't it painful for you to be with me? You have someone you truly love, you want to be with her." His expression changed abruptly. He was about to say something when a knock at the door interrupted him. I looked toward the door. A woman in a floral dress stood there, breathless, gazing affectionately at Jiang Zhouxing. With just one glance, I knew this woman was Bai Rouge in her youth. "Zhouxing, I know I shouldn't disturb you at a time like this, but I really need to talk to you." Her apologetic gaze settled on me, and she began to speak with a hint of guilt in her voice. "You probably won't believe this, but in my dream, I lived out an entire lifetime without you. I grew old alone, died from a serious illness, and when I opened my eyes, I was back here in the present. I know this is my chance, a gift from fate. I can't let you slip away again. Will you be with me?" Jiang Zhouxing's pupils contracted sharply, and his hands holding the child tightened involuntarily. I had never seen him so utterly beside himself before. In our past life, Jiang Zhouxing was refined yet aloof, as if nothing in the world could stir his emotions. Even when I presented the evidence of his infidelity right before his eyes, he merely stated with chilling calm the 30 years of accumulated, excruciating pain he had endured with me. "It seemed as though every misfortune in his entire life was brought about by me," he said. "Rouge remained unmarried her whole life for my sake, and now she's gravely ill. If I could choose again, I would never have been with you. But back then, when he knelt before my family to ask for my hand, he promised he would always treat me well. Jiang Zhouxing and I grew up together, and we pledged ourselves to each other when our youthful affections first blossomed. His family circumstances weren't very good, so when my parents objected, he knelt at the doorstep of my home. He knelt for 3 days and 3 nights, and I cried for 3 days and 3 nights, until finally, my parents' hearts softened from my tears and they consented to the marriage. After we got married, my parents even spent money and pulled strings to pave the way for his career at Jiangzhou Bank. Back then, we were still quite affectionate, and he would confide in me about many of his work troubles, but gradually, his source of distress shifted from work to another person. He told me that a new student under his supervision was too flighty and would constantly pester him with questions so basic they were almost foolish. He said the new student's family was struggling financially and having a hard time affording school, so he wanted to sponsor her. He mentioned that the new student was making progress in her studies and was even able to help out with some of the lab work. I noticed the phrase "the new student" kept coming up, and finally couldn't help but ask him whether the student was a boy or a girl, and what their name was. But after that, Jiang Zhouxing never brought it up with me again. I thought it meant they had simply drifted apart. Little did I know, it would be decades before I learned the real truth. I looked at Jiang Zhouxing, who was silently holding the child, and let out a soft laugh. "Jiang Zhouxing, what are you waiting for? I'm willing to step aside for you too." His heart ached at the sight of Bai Rouge in tears. After a long hesitation, he turned to me and said, "I've already failed Rouge once, I can't fail her a second time." A faint smile touched my lips, and a glimmer of understanding shone in my eyes. For a man, the unknown is always the most alluring. He had long since grown weary of our marriage. I stated my demands calmly. "I want the house, and 2/3 of the assets." Jiang Zhouxing listened quietly, a flicker of surprise appearing in his eyes. "You don't want the children." My gaze finally fell upon the swaddled bundle. This son, whom I had cradled in my very hands, had long since broken my heart. I turned my face away, suppressing a mother's instinct, and spoke coldly, "No." Hearing my words, Jiang Zhouxing breathed a sigh of relief. "All right, I promise, We'll get the divorce as soon as you've recovered from childbirth." As the words hung in the air, Bai Rouge, who had been standing at the doorway, finally couldn't hold back. She stepped forward and took Jiang Zhouxing's hand, her eyes crinkled into a smile as she looked at Jiang Zhouxing and vowed to him, "I will treat this child as my own. Zhouxing, I'm truly so happy that you chose me." After saying that, she couldn't help but glance at me, a provocative smile playing on her lips. Jiang Zhouxing gazed at her with adoration, as if looking at a priceless treasure. My parents had just arrived. Before they could even rejoice over the new addition to the family, they saw Jiang Zhouxing and Bai Rouge's hands intertwined. My father's expression instantly froze. Ignoring the man behind him, he spoke in a cold voice, "Jiang Zhouxing, what is the meaning of this? My daughter just gave birth to your child, and you bring your mistress right in front of her. Have you no humanity?" I reached out and took my father's hand, then turned to Jiang Zhouxing and said calmly, "You two should go ahead." My parents sat down with faces full of anger, their eyes fixed intently on the retreating figures of Jiang Zhouxing and Bai Rouge. I looked at the man standing to the side and offered a faint smile. "Brother Qinian, sorry you had to see that." Fu Qinian shook his head and handed me the lunchbox he was holding. "Xiaoqing, don't be too upset." "I'm not upset." He reached out and ruffled my hair, his eyes holding a gentle warmth. "If you're feeling sad, you can talk to me. I came back for you." I calmly opened the takeout box they brought, letting out a soft chuckle. "It's really not a big deal." My parents watched my movements with deep concern, urging me over and over to look on the bright side and not be too upset. I shook my head and told them with a smile that I was actually, truly happy, in my past life. Jiang Zhouxing and I lived out several decades in quiet, uneventful companionship. We've always supported each other through life's hardships, and to outsiders, our marriage looks like the picture of happiness, but only we know the truth. We barely talk at home, and the few conversations we do have revolve around our son and grandson. More than once, he sighed in the dead of night, feeling that this kind of existence is simply unbearable. And it was right around that time that Bai Rouge came into our lives. At first, she was just dancing in the square downstairs. Nearing 60, she remained graceful, effortlessly drawing everyone's attention. She struck up a conversation with me, and as we talked, I learned about her illness and her urgent need to find someone to care for her and handle her affairs after she was gone. Coincidentally, my son had just lost his job, and Jiang Zhouxing was the first to suggest that I take care of Bai Rouge to help with the household expenses. Truth be told, our family wasn't short on money. Jiang Zhouxing held a doctorate in botany, and the bonuses from his research findings were no small sum, but I agreed anyway, partly because I felt sorry for Bai Rouge, and partly because it had been so long since Jiang Zhouxing had spoken to me so kindly. After I started looking after Bai Rouge, Jiang Zhouxing would often come with me. The three of us would even sit on the sofa chatting for hours. For a time, I felt these were the happiest days of my later years, but to my surprise, while I was packing up Bai Rouge's things, I stumbled upon that photo album. The album was filled with nothing but photos of Jiang Zhouxing and Bai Rouge together, from their youthful days to their silver-haired present. Their hands were clasped tightly, as if they had never been apart all these years. I took one of the photos home and, for the first time, flew into a rage at Jiang Zhouxing, smashing half the furniture in the house. All I got in return was Jiang Zhouxing's cold remark, "After decades with you, I've long had enough. Only with Rouge can I remember what it feels like to have your heart flutter. It's all my fault for being too young back then, unable to see my own heart clearly, wasting decades of my life with you for nothing." Heartbroken, I slammed the door and went straight to my son's house. To my horror, I discovered that the son I had loved and cherished for so many years was fully aware of everything Jiang Zhouxing had done. The picture-perfect family of three in my mind had long been tainted, invaded at some point by the shadow of an outsider. Decades of marriage turned out to be nothing but a beautiful illusion, a mirage conjured just for me. Once I saw through it, it simply vanished. After my month of postpartum confinement, I went back home. As I reached the doorway, I heard Jiang Zhouxing's hearty laughter. I paused for a moment, then reached out and knocked on the door. Bai Rouge opened the door, the smile on her face not yet faded, but it froze the moment she saw me. "Anqing, what brings you here?" I glanced around the room and smiled. "If I'm not mistaken, this is still my place, isn't it? Am I not allowed to come?" She gave a slight, wry smile and stepped aside. "Of course you are." I stepped over the threshold and took a look around. In just a month, all traces of me had vanished from this house. The spot where my wedding photo with Jiang Zhouxing once stood was now occupied by a picture of the two of them. Every single one of my personal belongings had disappeared without a trace. Jiang Zhouxing looked at me, a flicker of annoyance in his eyes. "What are you doing here? Weren't we getting a divorce? What, changed your mind now?" I was taken aback for a moment, then turned to meet his gaze. His gaze was steady and calm, carrying a weight of time that hadn't been there on the day of the birth. Pressing my lips together, I handed over the prepared divorce papers. Not at all, I said. I'm here to give you this. Jiang Zhouxing took the divorce agreement, examined it carefully, and then signed his name without a moment's hesitation. Zhou Anqing, I'll agree to all your terms, but I expect you to stay out of our lives from now on. The child will never know you were their mother. I couldn't wait to get as far away from them as possible, so I wanted to leave immediately after completing the property transfer paperwork. But Bai Ruge's voice stopped me in my tracks. Sister Anqing, I hope you don't hate me. This outcome simply sets things right. After all, Zhouxing's true feelings are for me. My impression of Bai Ruge from my past life, as frail and gentle, was so deeply ingrained that I was momentarily stunned by her barbed words. She went on, speaking with great confidence. Zhouxing is truly a wonderful man. Just yesterday, he told me he was worried you couldn't make it on your own, so he's decided to leave you a larger share of the assets. And your child, he's quite fond of me. I'll raise him well. Jiang Zhouxing stood behind her, gazing at her with deep affection. I gave a wry smile. So, shall I wish the happy little family of 3 all the best? Jiang Zhouxing let out a contemptuous snort. We don't need your blessings. Just don't use the child as an excuse to bother me again. I couldn't help but laugh. These two really turned my previous understanding of them completely upside down. Jiang Zhouxing, I'm not in the business of collecting trash. The moment I turned to leave, I saw Jiang Zhouxing's face darken instantly. The already lukewarm feelings from my past life vanished completely in that moment. Their actions, their happiness, or lack thereof, none of it had anything to do with me anymore. My heart would no longer stir even a ripple because of them. That very day, I gathered all my friends from my youth and invited them to celebrate my return to singlehood. Seeing you again after what feels like a lifetime, I'm overwhelmed with emotion. When they heard about my divorce, their faces were filled with disbelief. So you've finally come to your senses. I let out a short laugh. Yeah, I have. I wasn't happy with him at all. To celebrate my liberation from misery, my friends ordered crate after crate of drinks, clearly determined to get me drunk. Halfway through, I waved my hands in surrender and stumbled my way toward the restroom. On the way, I passed by a private room and heard someone call out Jiang Zhouxing's name. Zhouxing, you finally don't have to hide your relationship with Rouge anymore, but you and Zhou Anqing grew up together. Can you really bear to let her go? Jiang Zhouxing held Bai Ruge close and took a sip of his drink. Childhood sweethearts. I only moved next door to her when I was in my teens. I was young and naive, just starting to have those first feelings, and we walked to and from school together every day. That's why I thought I liked her. When I grew up, I realized her personality, so soft and pliable, like dough, wasn't my type at all. A wave of teasing cheers erupted from the private room. So who do you like then? Jiang Zhouxing planted a kiss on Bai Ruge's cheek and declared with deep affection, It's Rouge, of course. Hearing that, I let out a cold laugh and turned to leave, but to my surprise, my legs gave way and I stumbled right into the private room door. Swinging it open, the people inside froze at the sight of me, falling into a dead silence. Jiang Zhouxing narrowed his eyes, his tone turning icy. Zhou Anqing, we're divorced. Are you following me? Bai Ruge straightened up, her gaze toward me filled with hostility. Sister Anqing, why are you here? Zhouxing loves me. Stop trying to get his attention. Jiang Zhouxing chuckled, gently pulling Bai Ruge into his arms. Relax, I'm yours. No one can take me away. Watching the two of them being all lovey-dovey just made me sick. I smacked my forehead. Had too much to drink. Why am I seeing this eyesore of trash again? As the words left my mouth, I heard a low chuckle from behind me. A warm hand came to rest on my shoulder. Shao Qing, if you're drunk, you should come home with me. I was so startled that I stumbled backward, right into a warm embrace. Instinctively, I raised my hands to brace against their chest. Looking up, I saw a face that was both familiar and strange. My eyes widened in delighted surprise. Brother Qinian, you're here. Jiang Zhouxing was right. He was never my true childhood friend. My true childhood sweetheart was Fu Qinian. But he went abroad for university when he was 18. Fu Qinian smiled and ruffled my hair. Yeah, he said, I'm here to take you home. With that, he took my hand just like he used to when we were kids and led me out of the private room. Just as we turned the corner, the sound of shattering glass came from the room we'd left. Zhouxing, what are you so upset about? You're divorced now anyway. Jiang Zhouxing let out a scornful laugh. Who said I'm upset? I just accidentally broke the bottle. That's all. Bai Ruge chimed in with a smile, coming to Jiang Zhouxing's defense. Zhouxing's true love is me. Okay, how could he possibly be heartbroken over Zhou Anqing? Fu Qinian pulled me along, and we walked farther and farther away. He didn't stop until the commotion from the private room was completely out of earshot. He turned to look at me, his expression inscrutable. And you, would you be heartbroken over Jiang Zhouxing? I was taken aback for a moment. Then curved my lips into a smile. How could I possibly be heartbroken over a man whose heart belongs to someone else? Brother Qinian, you're underestimating me. Fu Qinian studied my expression intently, and only after confirming I was truly fine did he take my hand and lead me into the car. Once we got in the car, the alcohol finally hit me. I just started grinning at Fu Qinian. I couldn't even tell you what was so funny. Fu Qinian's mouth was moving. But I have no memory of what he said. I just remember nodding and shaking my head before everything went black and I passed out. When I came to, I was lying in an unfamiliar room, with a feverishly warm body beside me. I froze, then began inching my way toward the edge of the bed, but just as I was about to get off, a strong arm wrapped around my waist and forcefully pulled me back to the center. Xiaoqing, where are you going? I turned my head stiffly, and a wave of relief washed over me the moment my eyes met Fu Qinian's gaze. You scared me to death. I thought, you thought it was someone else. His voice was calm, but I got goosebumps for no reason. I waved my hands frantically. No, I was just startled. Brother Qinian, nothing happened between us last night, right? I offered an awkward, sheepish smile. Fu Qinian looked at me, then slowly sat up. The pure white duvet slipped from his chest, revealing a scattering of vivid, suggestive red marks, undeniable proof of the beastly things I'd done in my drunken state. He made a poor attempt to pull the covers up, his voice soft as he murmured, it was nothing, really, it's just that you really need me to stay with you tonight. My mind seemed to explode, a ringing sound filling my ears. This is what alcohol does to you. I frowned and pulled back the covers, relieved to see I was still dressed, though my clothes were a bit disheveled, so nothing substantial actually happened between us, aside from my one-sided assault on Fu Qinian. I collapsed onto the bed, utterly despondent, wishing with all my heart that this was all just a bad dream. Fu Qinian watched my whole performance and spoke coldly. Zhouanqing, don't you have anything to say for yourself? I covered my eyes, not daring to look at him. I'm sorry, to you and your girlfriend, but nothing actually happened between us, so let's try not to see each other from now on. And if we do, we shouldn't meet alone. After a silence so heavy it nearly suffocated me, Fu Qinian let out a bitter, incredulous laugh. He reached out, pulled me from under the covers, wrapped one arm tightly around my waist, and pinched my cheek with his other hand. Zhouanqing, what girlfriend are you talking about? I was all set to settle down abroad. I only came back for you. My parents were chatting with your folks and heard you got divorced. That's why I flew back overnight. Do you get it now? I just stared at him, dumbfounded. It finally dawned on me, after the fact, the last time I saw Fu Qinian in my past life was at my own wedding. He pulled me aside, pressed an ornate bracelet into my hand, and said in a low, detached voice, a wedding gift for you. If you're ever unhappy, you can come find me abroad. But I simply dismissed it as a joke from the boy next door. I glanced up slightly, meeting his gaze brimming with unspoken affection, and it slowly overlapped with the one from my past life. So, it seems he really does like me. I placed my hands on his chest and leaned in closer. Brother Qinian, do you really like me? Then why didn't you come back before I got married? At this, Fu Qinian's expression changed, and his whole demeanor sank. I was in a car accident. He said that when he found out I was engaged, he booked a flight back home. It was just on the way to the airport that he got into the accident. By the time he's fully recovered and comes back, the only thing he'll be in time for is my wedding to Jiang Zhouxing. His eyelids drooped, veiling the dejection in his eyes, yet a sense of despondency kept closing in around me. I sighed, then reached out to hug him, pressing my face against his chest. I'm divorced now. How about I go abroad with you? I was greeted by a kiss, fervent and lingering. What didn't happen last night was made up for in the morning. When I opened my eyes again, dusk had already fallen. Fu Qinian was leaning against the nightstand, working on his laptop, his hand occasionally reaching over to stroke my hair. Seeing I was awake, he set his laptop aside, pulled me into his arms, and gave me a kiss. Are you hungry? I shook my head. I should get home. My parents will be worried since I didn't come back last night. I already told them. I said you were with me. I turned to look at him, my face suddenly burning bright red. I pointed at him, then at myself. You told them that too. I told them, and they're quite supportive. I was at a loss for words, but I decided to accept it. Grabbing my clothes and pulling them on, I said I'm going home, and you're coming with me. A smile appeared in Fu Qinian's eyes. All right. The moment I pulled up to the house, I saw Jiang Zhouxing pacing in front of my door, holding a child. I ignored him, taking Fu Qinyan's hand as I walked toward the house. Jiang Zhouxing stepped in front of us, his face cold. "Anqing, where have you been? The child has a fever, come and see." I looked at the child in his arms, breathing deeply and sleeping peacefully. "Jiang Zhouxing, you were the one who told me not to show my face around the child. What's the meaning of this? Using the kid as an excuse to stop me now?" he said through gritted teeth. "Where were you last night? Someone saw you going to a hotel with this man." I rolled my eyes. "What's it to you if I went to a hotel with my boyfriend? It's none of your business." Bai Rouge, who had just arrived, paled and tugged at Jiang Zhouxing's sleeve. "Zhouxing, why are you asking about that? Didn't you say you only loved me? Why are you still meddling in your ex-wife's affairs?" Jiang Zhouxing looked at Bai Rouge and quickly tried to placate her. "Why would I care about her? It's just that the child has a bit of a fever. I thought he should check on the kid. You're the only one in my heart. If you don't like it, I'll never come see her again." Then he turned to me. "I just came to test you, to see if you'd use the child as an excuse to cling to me. Now I'm relieved. I hope you can keep this up from now on." I looked at him and sneered. "Are you out of your mind? My boyfriend is 1,000, no, 1,000,000 times better than you. I'd have to be insane to want anything to do with you." "Jiang Zhouxing, get away from my doorstep. You're bad luck." I walked through the front door, holding Fu Qinyan's hand. My parents' gaze locked onto our intertwined fingers and slowly froze. "What is the meaning of this?" I was stunned for a second, then looked up at Fu Qinyan, shooting him a look. "Didn't you say you'd already told them?" Fu Qinyan looked at my expression, smiled, and gave me a look in return, but I couldn't decipher it. He took my hand and led me before my parents, speaking with solemn sincerity. "Uncle, Auntie, I heard about Xiaoqing's divorce and came back to the country specifically. I already missed my chance with Xiaoqing once. I won't miss it a second time. We decided to be together yesterday, and we hope you'll give us your blessing." His voice was steady and firm, yet the hand holding mine trembled faintly. It was nerves, and a touch of fear. But then, my mom's eyes suddenly welled up, and she gave me a firm slap on the arm. "You silly girl, finally, you can see clearly. Back then, I don't know what was wrong with your eyes. You could only see that scoundrel Jiang Zhouxing, completely blind to how wonderful a boy Shan Yan is." I was so stunned by her slap that before I could even speak, I saw her grab Fu Qinyan's hand. "Shan Yan, our families arranged a marriage pact for you two when you were just children. After all these twists and turns, fate has brought you together after all. How wonderful, just wonderful. I'll call your parents right now to set a wedding date. How does that sound?" Hearing this, my eyes widened in shock. "What are you talking about, Mom? I just got divorced." Fu Qinyan glanced at me, a hint of grievance in his dark pupils. He said to my mom with a smile, "Auntie, let's listen to Xiaoqing on this matter. It's not my place to decide." His tone was all pitiful, as if I had bullied him. I took a deep breath and was about to explain, but a single look from my mom made me back down. "Why listen to Xiaoqing? Listen to me. If she dares to give you any trouble, I'll kick her out of the house." That's way too harsh. I'm seriously starting to suspect that Fu Qinyan is actually my mom's real son. After I argued my case, we finally changed it from a wedding to an engagement. When we were finally alone, Fu Qinyan looked at me and asked in a measured tone, "You don't want to marry me? You still don't like me, do you? You're only with me to get back at your ex-husband. Do you still have feelings for him?" His questions were giving me a headache. I wanted to cover his mouth, but he grabbed my wrists. There was no other way. I had to shut him up with a kiss. After a long 10 minutes, we broke apart, breathless, and I was finally able to talk to him properly. "I don't have any lingering feelings for him, and there's nothing between us anymore. I'm just worried about you. Brother Qinyan, you're so successful. Even though you've been abroad all these years, your reputation has reached back home. But me, I'm a divorced woman with a child. If I marry you right after my divorce, what will people think of you? Won't they say you were the one who came between us? I won't let you take the blame for something you didn't do because of me." Fu Qinyan was taken aback for a moment, his eyes brimming with emotion. He pulled me into his embrace. "That won't happen. After all, the real person who came between your marriage is someone else, isn't that right?" "Well, that's true." I hadn't even finished speaking when he kissed me. "Don't worry," he said, "I'll take care of everything." After we agreed to get engaged that day, Fu Qinyan took me abroad and took care of every aspect of my life. I asked him if he intended for us to settle down overseas, since in his past life, he had stayed abroad the whole time, but he shook his head. "I'm moving my business back to China. I brought you here because I didn't want to be apart from you, not to make you leave your home to settle down here with me. You have your family and friends back home. I love you, and I truly believe I can be good to you for the rest of my life, but you can't live your life solely relying on my love." After hearing him say that, I was so moved that tears streamed down my face. As for back home, my parents told me that during my time abroad, Jiang Zhouxing had come to my family's doorstep more than once, holding our child and looking for me. He and Bai Rouge had no experience taking care of a child. The poor little one suffered quite a bit with them, falling ill several times with both serious and minor ailments. My parents were so worried about the child that they decided to keep him with them. I listened to their decision with a deep frown on my face. I know a child's temperament can be shaped with proper upbringing, but in my past life, he literally drove me to the point of spitting up blood and anger. The look on his face is something I will never forget. I told Fu Qinian about this, and he didn't sleep a wink all night. He woke me up at the crack of dawn, helped me get dressed, and insisted on accompanying me back to China. Why go back? Have you finished your business here? Fu Qinian shook his head. I'll go with you to bring the child home. Xiaoqing, I can't promise I'll treat him exactly like my own flesh and blood, but I know he's your child. For your sake, I can and will love him too. If you're worried he might not amount to much in the future, we can also set aside a trust for him, enough to live on comfortably for the rest of his life. I know it's hard for you to let go. You wouldn't have shed those tears when you heard the child was sick if it weren't. His words left a deep ache in my heart. In the end, I took his hand, and together we boarded the flight back home. After we landed, we went straight to the hospital. Our baby, only a few months old, was covered in tubes. Remembering how healthy he had been in my past life, I couldn't stop the tears from falling. Jiang Zhouxing and Bai Rouge were standing by. Without a second thought, I stepped forward and slapped Jiang Zhouxing across the face. Is this what you meant by taking good care of him? And this is what Bai Rouge meant by treating him as her own. Jiang Zhouxing, get out of my sight. From now on, I'll raise this child myself. His eyes widened in clear disbelief that I would fight for custody of the child. Impossible. This is my son, and he stays with me, I sneered, pointing at the child in the hospital bed. This is how you take care of him when he's with you. Jiang Zhouxing, let me make this clear. I am fighting for custody of this child. If you want a child, go have Bai Rouge give you one. Bai Rouge's expression changed instantly, and she offered me a placating smile. Sister Anqing, please don't be angry. I told you I would treat this child as my own. I will never have a child of my own in this lifetime. I stared at her coldly, not saying a word. However, Fu Qinian, standing behind me, spoke up calmly. Miss Bai, is it that you won't have one, or that you can't have one? As soon as he said this, all eyes in the room turned to Bai Rouge. Bai Rouge's face instantly drained of color. She stammered, Mr. Fu, just because you have power and influence doesn't mean you can make baseless accusations, does it? Fu Qinian let out a derisive snort. Without another word, he turned his gaze to Jiang Zhouxing. Mr. Jiang, we will absolutely fight for custody of the child. If we can't resolve this amicably, we'll see you in court. With that, he had Jiang Zhouxing and Bai Rouge shown out. As they were leaving, I overheard Jiang Zhouxing confront Bai Rouge, demanding to know if it was true she couldn't have children. I pressed my lips together and looked at Fu Qinian. Why did you say she can't have a child? Fu Qinian pulled a medical report from his bag. It showed Bai Rouge had a congenital condition, and carrying a pregnancy would likely devastate her own health. Even if she delivered safely, there was a high probability the condition would be passed on. I took a deep breath and couldn't help but wonder, did Bai Rouge in my past life also know this all too well? And that's why she endured for decades without disturbing our lives. There was no time for me to dwell on it. The child, who had been sleeping quietly in the hospital bed, suddenly began to cry. I skillfully gathered him into my arms, feeling that small bundle in my embrace. A sudden wave of guilt washed over me. If he's done anything wrong, it's the future version of him who's to blame. Now that I have the chance to set things right, I must take it, not give up. I believe I will make sure he never turns out like that again. After the child recovers, the engagement ceremony between me and Fu Qinian will soon take place. He gave me the very best he could, in every way he knew how. The lavish wedding venue was filled to the brim with guests. He led me in by the hand, pledging his love and devotion for a lifetime. But just as he was about to slip the ring on my finger, Jiang Zhouxing suddenly rushed towards me from a corner. Anqing, you can't be with him. We're husband and wife. We have a child together. It's us who should grow old together. Looking at his deathly pale face, a wave of disgust washed over me. Jiang Zhouxing, have you lost your mind? We've been divorced for ages. He looked at me, his face etched with pain. I was wrong, he said. I shouldn't have given in to temptation. I've sent Bai Rouge away. Everything at home is just as it was when you were there. Please, won't you come back with me? Let's raise our child together and live a good life. Fu Qinian's face darkened. With a sharp gesture, he signaled for the venue's security to drag Jiang Zhouxing out. Jiang Zhouxing's expression was contorted with rage as he struggled and roared, I was reborn, Fu Qinian, in my past life. And Qing and I spent our entire lives together, you were never part of the picture, she can only be my wife. Fu Qinian's expression was grim, but he forced a smile and slowly slid the ring onto my finger. I looked at him and explained in a hushed voice, please don't be angry, okay, I can explain everything to you in a moment. He lifted his gaze gently, his eyes filled with nothing but heartache. You've been reborn too, haven't you? That's the only way to explain your unwavering resolve to divorce him. He must have hurt you in your past life, so the first thing you did upon your rebirth was to break free from him. I never expected him to be so perceptive. It took me a long moment before I finally nodded. After I slipped the ring onto his finger, he took my hand and led me off the stage. The guests were somewhat bewildered, but they offered their congratulations to us in the prevailing atmosphere. After politely expressing our thanks, we made our way backstage. Jiang Zhouxing was tied up here, with his mouth sealed shut by duct tape. His gaze fell upon my and Fu Qinian's clasped hands, revealing a hatred I had never seen in him before. Fu Qinian tore off the bandage with a cold expression. Mr. Jiang, you've ruined the perfection of my engagement ceremony. Jiang Zhouxing ignored Fu Qinian's words, looking only at me. Anqing, I truly know I was wrong, can you ever forgive me? In our past life, we supported each other through a lifetime. Wasn't that simple? Love-filled life good enough? I know I had my failings. Heaven took pity, giving us all a chance to be young again. I want to start over with you, to make up for every mistake from our previous life. Come back to me, please. I promise to spend the rest of my life with you. And to make it a good one, my face expressionless, I enunciated each word clearly. I refuse. Jiang Zhouxing, in our last life, you carried on an affair with Bai Rouge for decades, you hid it from me for decades, and in the end, you even expected me to nurse a critically ill Bai Rouge. After all you did to me, what makes you think I would ever be willing to start over with you? I wish I could put as much distance between us as possible. I never want to lay eyes on you again. Jiang Zhouxing's eyes suddenly welled up with tears, his fists clenched. Don't you love me anymore? I took Fu Qinian's hand. I love Fu Qinian. Whatever feelings I had for you were worn away long ago by your day in, day out indifference. Just go. Don't ever show your face to me again. With that, I took Fu Qinian's hand and turned to leave. Just as we took a step, a figure in white burst through the doorway. Without warning, she slapped Jiang Zhouxing across the face. Jiang Zhouxing, what is the meaning of this? You come crawling back to your ex-wife the moment you find out my health prevents me from having children. What's wrong with you? What? Do you think you can sweet-talk your wife while carrying on with me behind her back? Just like in your last life, let me tell you, don't even think about it. As long as I'm around, you'll never be free of me. I was so stunned by the scene that I couldn't react. Jiang Zhouxing's gaze towards Bai Rouge was positively murderous. You're not even with me because you like me. You just want me to pay for your treatment and take care of you. All you want is a free nurse. Bai Rouge, I must have been blind. What was I thinking? Falling for someone like you. Upon hearing this, Bai Rouge's eyes blazed with fury. He charged at Jiang Zhouxing, throwing punches and kicks. I couldn't be bothered to watch their drama any longer. I took Fu Qinian's hand and we left. We had just arrived at the hotel, and before I could even change, Fu Qinian pinned me against the wall and kissed me fiercely. I'm jealous. Why did you promise to grow old with him? Why didn't you come find me? I was kissed into speechlessness. Only after the storm of passion had subsided was I able to nestle into his arms. I was wrong about you all along. Perhaps the reason heaven gave me my youth back was so I could make it up to you, and spend the rest of my life properly by your side. Fu Qinian held me in his arms, clutching me so tightly it was as if he wanted to press me into his very flesh and blood. I soothed him softly, again and again. Fu Qinian, in my past life, I died before I was 60, my hair hadn't even turned gray then. As long as you're by my side in this life, I'll do my best to live to 80, to 90, just to stay with you. Okay. He childishly stuck out his pinky finger and mumbled, pinky promise. I laughed and hooked my pinky with his. Pinky swear, 100 years, no take-backs. It was 3 months later when I next heard news of Jiang Zhouxing. He and Bai Rouge were locked in a divorce battle, yet Bai Rouge was determined to cling to him, refusing to grant a divorce at any cost. The two of them were tangled up in the divorce proceedings for nearly a year. It caused quite a stir. Jiang Zhouxing was fired from his job due to his conduct. With his source of income gone, Bai Rouge instantly turned cold towards him. But then the tables were turned. Bai Rouge wanted a divorce from Jiang Zhouxing because she looked down on him for being poor, but he clung to her and refused to let go. The two of them had become a bitter, resentful couple who could barely stand the sight of each other. after years of this psychological torment, neither of them lived to a ripe old age. As for me, Fu Qinian and I welcomed a pair of twins, a boy and a girl. The child who returned to me has grown into a wonderful big brother. Everything is different now. There's not a single trace left of our past life. I will stay by Fu Qinian's side until we're 80, 90, 100 years old. Story 2. My husband brought home the love child he had with my best friend. I treated him as my own, handling every aspect of his life personally. I groomed him to become the exceptionally capable crown prince of the Beijing elite circle. Later, he smoothly inherited my husband's company, only to have me committed to a psychiatric hospital. Tell the doctors inside to take good care of me. It's because of you that my birth mother got into that car accident. How could someone like you ever compare to my mother? My husband watched from the side, his expression one of relief. Qian, you've finally gotten your revenge. After being abused to death, I was reborn. Facing the child my husband brought home, I still smiled and said, "Don't worry, from now on, he will be my son." Hello everyone, and welcome to Glimmering Love Stories. I was reborn, returning to the time 5 years into my marriage with Qin Tian. He brought home a little boy and said to me, "Wani, this is Qian's child. She passed away after falling into the water. Shall we adopt him?" In my past life, I had a miscarriage that damaged my health, leaving me unable to conceive. Since Li Qian was also my friend, I agreed. In this life, as I looked closely at the child, I realized his eyes and brows bore a striking resemblance, about 70%, to my husband's. This was no child of Li Qian and some other man. He was clearly the son of Qin Tian and my so-called best friend. I pretended not to know, bent down, and patted his head. "Don't worry, from now on, he is my son. What's your name, little one?" I asked, my voice dripping with gentleness. Seeing me for the first time, he looked at me cautiously and whispered, "Auntie, my name is Qin Xiao." My smile froze on my face. Qin Tian quickly explained, his original surname was Zhang, but I thought since we're going to adopt him, we might as well change it to mine. I forced another smile. "It's fine, that's only right. In my previous life, after we got married, Qin Tian took over the company from me. Since the company's headquarters were overseas, it took him 7 years to gradually shift its focus back to the domestic market. Consequently, the responsibility of caring for Qin Xiao fell squarely on my shoulders. In my past life, ever since Qin Xiao arrived, no matter how busy Qin Tian was, he would always make sure to spend at least 3 days in the country every month. During those days, he would take Qin Xiao out alone, using the excuse of bonding and spending quality time together. I thought he was just afraid of growing distant from Qin Xiao. It never crossed my mind that he was doing it for the sake of reuniting our family of 3, but in this life, he strangely places an unusual amount of trust in me. I've taken care of Qin Xiao with the utmost devotion, buying him the finest designer clothes, having his food airshipped fresh from abroad, and even hiring renowned tutors for his early education. Qin Tian was deeply moved. That evening, he took my hand and, with a soft, coaxing voice, tried to lead me to bed. After 5 years of marriage, I had always thought he was a man of a cold, distant nature. The last time he showed such tenderness was 2 years ago. That night, he was utterly passionate in bed. I couldn't bring myself to refuse him, and the next day I was in so much pain I couldn't get out of bed. What hurt more than that night was the miscarriage. Qin Tian rushed me to the hospital, where the doctor shook his head and told me the damage was done. I might never be able to conceive again. Qin Tian knelt before me, slapping his own face, saying it was all his fault for being so rough. At the time, I felt partly to blame for not even realizing I was pregnant. Besides, Qin Tian was an only son, and he had always been good to me. I didn't want a divorce, yet here I was, the one ending his family line. So, I treated Qin Xiao, who brought him back, as my own child, nurturing him with all my heart and soul. Yet, all the love I poured out was merely paving the way for my own demise. In this lifetime, the very sight of Qin Tian turns my stomach, let alone the thought of any intimate acts. Qin Tian, however, was getting into the mood. His hand began to slowly creep up along mine. I got goosebumps all over. He chuckled softly. "Wani, are you that sensitive?" I looked up, my face flushed with embarrassment. "I'll go get that." I opened the drawer and took out a box of expired Okamoto 001 condoms, accidentally knocking something to the floor. Qin Tian's gaze followed, and his expression shifted slightly. The bracelet that fell out of the drawer was one Li Qian had given to Qin Tian earlier. Li Qian is a student from a poor background that my family sponsors. Ever since she got into a university in our city, we started meeting often and eventually became close friends. After seeing the online meme about beware of fire theft, and your best friend," I joked. "Let's make sure we never fall for the same guy, because I won't be backing down. My family is wealthy, very wealthy. I've never had to give up anything I wanted, and that includes men. Li Qian is beautiful, and Qin Tian is both talented and handsome. They hardly ever talk when they see each other. At the wedding, Qin Tian even joked that Li Qian should get together with one of our groomsmen. I always thought there was absolutely no way they could be together. Who would have guessed they were hiding it from me all along? Their child is already 4, and we've only been married for 5 years. After I got married, Li Qian said she was going back to the countryside to help develop the rural areas. We gradually lost touch. Who could have imagined that Qin Tian would take her abroad, out there? Li Qian was the one sharing his romantic adventures, while back home I was the one taking care of the household and the children. In my past life, when he returned to the country and took Qin Xiao out without me, it was all because Li Qian was there too. It was a reunion for their little family of 3. How could I, an outsider, possibly intrude? He really has it all, doesn't he? After Li Qian went back to the countryside, Qin Tian and I mentioned her even less. She had gotten a lot of prayer bracelets from the temple before, and gave 2 of them to Qin Tian and me. I never saw Qin Tian wear his, it just sat in a drawer. I deliberately dropped the bracelet on the floor, and it worked like a charm. I picked up the bracelet, examining it closely in my hand, and said softly, "Huh, this is the bracelet Li Qian gave you, isn't it? It's a shame I accidentally broke the one she gave me." I held up the bracelet towards Qin Tian. "Honey, Li Qian said this was blessed at the temple. Why don't you wear it?" Qin Tian straightened up, his eyes evasive. "Isn't it more appropriate for a man in business to wear a watch?" I looked puzzled. "Really, but I've seen a lot of clients wearing sandalwood bracelets." Feeling a pang of guilt, he added, "Then I should be wearing the one you got for me. What's the meaning of wearing something from someone else?" "Alright," I said, pouting. Qin Tian lost interest. He stood up abruptly and said, "I just remembered I have some unfinished documents to attend to. You should get some rest." With that, he strode away. I watched his hurried steps, my gaze turning icy. It doesn't matter, he's going abroad soon anyway. Before he left, he kissed my forehead and said, "Wani, you've always been a top student since childhood and learned business from your family. It's Qin Zhao's good fortune to have you as his teacher." I smiled sweetly and said, "Don't worry, you handle the outside world, and I'll take care of things at home, unlike in the previous life." He didn't give me meticulous instructions this time. He seemed to trust me completely, uttering just a single sentence and telling Qin Xiao to listen to me more, before picking up his suitcase and walking away. According to the trajectory of the previous life, it would take Qin Tian another 5 years to fully shift his focus back to the domestic scene. For these 5 years, I would be the sole master of the house, with the Jiang family backing me from the shadows. Dealing with a mere child would be like using a sledgehammer to crack a nut, making Qin Xiao fall ill or meet with some accident. If I arranged it well, no one would ever suspect it was me. Even if Qin Tian comes back someday, he can't openly give me a hard time for the sake of an adopted son without any proof or reason. Qin Zhao's soft little hand suddenly brushed against me. I looked down. The 4-year-old only came up to my thigh, and he was now tentatively trying to take my hand, with his big, doe-like eyes glistening. He asked me tentatively, "Mom, can I take a day off today?" He called me Mom. For a fleeting moment, my heart softened. He took my hand completely, the very same hands that, when I refused to go to the psychiatric hospital and clung to the car door, had pried my fingers open one by one. He said to me, "How could someone like you ever compare to my mother?" Her hand was warm, but a shiver ran down my spine. I gently withdrew my hand and said softly, "If you don't want to study, then don't. Go play your game." Qin Xiao, who had been a little downcast when I pulled my hand away, immediately cheered up. Watching his retreating figure, a wicked thought crossed my mind. I certainly wasn't going to slave away tutoring him again like in my past life, just to mold him into a top scorer on the college entrance exams. If he loves to play, then let him have his fun. I had someone take him to the mall and buy him any toy he wanted. I even got him a PS5 and a Switch. It gave him major bragging rights with his classmates. Chasing that feeling of superiority, he started bringing friends over to play games every single day. Qin Xiao would game late into the night, and I never stopped him, only reminding him to sleep in the early hours. Naturally, he'd doze off in class the next day. The teacher called me to the school. "Mrs. Qin, why is your son Xiao falling asleep in class every day? Is he not getting enough rest at night?" With a gentle smile, I handed the teacher the Tiffany bracelet I had just bought. "Teacher, you know our family's situation. We are well off. Xiao is going to inherit the family business. He has to watch financial news videos every night at home. Just make sure he's looked after at school and doesn't get hurt, that's all. Looking at the bracelet in her hand, something that would take months of her salary to afford, the teacher smiled and said, "That makes perfect sense. A student like Qin Xiao is starting from a completely different place than the rest of us." I pulled Qin Xiao home. Seeing that I wasn't going to scold him, he finally relaxed and even let go of my hand. The teachers didn't pay him much mind either, as long as he wasn't being bullied at school, for the sake of appearances. I had people recommend top-tier tutors for him. I enrolled him in every high-end course imaginable: piano, violin, painting, dance, golf, and equestrian. Everyone in our circle knew just how much effort I was putting into this adopted child. In my past life, I was committed to a psychiatric hospital. Everyone knew exactly what was going on, but because Qin Tian had become a powerful figure, they didn't dare speak a word in my defense, even if they pitied me. The only person who came to see me was Zhang Huai, the son of Nanny Zhang, whom I had supported. He believed me when I said I wasn't insane and even helped me call the police. Unfortunately, no one dared to cross Qin Tian. I remained locked up in the asylum, where the doctors and nurses subjected me to relentless torment, force-feeding me medication, administering electroshock therapy, and psychological abuse, until I truly lost my mind. Not only did Zhang Huai lose his job in this city, but he was also in a car accident that resulted in the amputation of both his legs. He was only 25 then, and just like that, his future was gone. Whenever I think of these things, I am overwhelmed with guilt. I went to find Auntie Zhang. "Auntie Zhang, is it true you have a son in high school? If you're willing, I'd like for him to be my godson. I'll cover all his living expenses from now on, and I'll even send him to the best schools." My constant indulgence of Qin Xiao meant he never learned to show restraint, even in front of his teachers. His reputation as a hopeless case spread, and eventually, teachers became reluctant to teach him, fearing it would tarnish their own reputations. Qin Tian sent a WeChat message asking about Qin Zhao's studies. I sent him a photo of Qin Zhao's back as he was reading a manga book, with the caption, "The kid is diligent and hardworking, so you can rest easy." I also buy Qin Xiao his favorite little cakes and snacks every single day. I order him hearty, meat-heavy meals daily. Kids grow up so fast. By the time he was 8, he was already up to my chest, taller and heavier than other kids his age. Every time Qin Tian was about to come home, I'd tell Qin Xiao not to mention that he was allowed to play games at my place, or he'd never get to play again. Qin Xiao now trusts me completely and hasn't breathed a word of this to Qin Tian. I hired a private investigator to tail them after Qin Tian took Qin Xiao out. The detective sent me a lot of photos and videos of the three of them eating together, going to amusement parks, and traveling, as well as audio recordings of their conversations. In the recordings, Qin Xiao calls Qin Tian dad and Li Qian mom. "I haven't told anyone that Zhang Huai is my godson. I just visit him whenever I have the time. He has an upright posture, and his every gesture carries a noble air that ordinary people lack." I was suddenly made aware that Qin Tian had already shifted the company's strategic focus back to the domestic market. It was as if Qin Tian had a sixth sense for business. He was unstoppable. Not only did he pivot the company's focus domestically, but he also secured several highly lucrative projects right off the bat. What took 6 years in my past life was completed shockingly early this time around. It instantly became the talk of the industry, with numerous clients rushing to secure partnerships. But in my previous life, it was only with my brother's help that Qin Tian managed to secure a few major projects here in the country. I never expected this life to be so different from the last one. I took Qin Xiao with me to the airport to pick him up. We got to the airport, but even after waiting for over half an hour, there was no sign of him. He's not answering my calls. So I had to phone his assistant. "What time is Qin Tian's flight? I don't see him." His assistant quickly replied, "Madam, President Qin said he had some business to attend to. He left directly from the airport." "That's odd. The company matters are settled. Where could he have gone instead of coming straight home? Doesn't he miss Qin Xiao?" That evening, Qin Tian's friends threw him a victory party. When he got back, he was completely wasted and reeked of alcohol. "Chan, I'm sorry. I have money now, but I still can't." Hick. He looked at me with glazed eyes and lunged forward. I quickly stepped aside, losing his balance. Qin Tian stumbled onto the sofa, grabbed the trash can, and threw up. I quickly pulled Qin Xiao over. Xiao, you haven't seen your dad in a long time. He must really miss you. Go on, go talk to him." Qin Xiao looked at Qin Tian with a hint of disdain, then frowned at me. It was clear he didn't want to go. I spoke to him gently. "You're not a little kid anymore, you're a big boy now. You should be more understanding of your dad. He works very hard to earn money." I handed him the hangover soup. have your dad drink this, or he'll feel awful. After vomiting, Qin Tian's mind cleared, and he began to recognize people again. Seeing his son, whom he hadn't seen in half a year, he called out, "Xiao Xiao." Qin Xiao wore an impatient expression. He shuffled forward a few steps, but as he got close to Qin Tian, he suddenly threw down the bowl. "Dad, you smell awful. I've spoiled Qin Xiao rotten." He throws a fit and refuses to do anything at the slightest inconvenience. To be honest, I find it disgusting too. Meeting Qin Tian's disappointed gaze, I quickly said, "Honey, don't overthink it. He's just a child. I'll go talk to him." I made a quick exit. I'm afraid I won't be able to hold back my laughter. It must be so painful for Qin Tian to hear his own son, whom he dotes on, speak to him like that. Early the next morning, I called Qin Xiao out. Seeing Qin Tian already seated at the dining table, Qin Xiao hesitated awkwardly for a long moment before reluctantly uttering a "dad." In an effort to quickly bond with him, Qin Tian personally tutored Qin Xiao on his homework that evening. Before long, an ear-splitting roar erupted from the study. It's true, no one can stay sane while helping a child with homework, especially when that child is Qin Xiao, the academic underachiever of this lifetime. "Your handwriting is a mess, you can't write half these words, and you can't even do simple multiplication. What have you been learning in school?" Then, Qin Xiao burst into loud sobs inside the room. I rushed in and pulled Qin Xiao into a hug, my heart aching for him. "He's just a child. Why are you yelling at him? You just need to teach him patiently." Qin Tian was furious. "He's 8 years old. Still a child. What kind of mother are you? Weren't you the one who told me not to worry?" Qin Xiao was terrified, but he was close to me and considered me his best friend. He couldn't stand to see anyone yell at me, so he shoved Qin Tian with all his might. "What are you yelling for? You never cared for me when I was growing up. My mom took care of everything, and now you dare to shout at her. Oh, so in this life, he finally knows how to stand up for me." But I suspect he yelled at Qin Tian not to defend me, but because he's been spoiled rotten and can't handle anyone scolding him. Previously, when Qin Tian brought Li Qian back, it was mostly to build a relationship so Qin Xiao wouldn't be a complete stranger to them. So, I imagine they probably indulged Qin Xiao, agreeing to whatever he wanted. "So you didn't see through Qin Xiao's true nature, did you?" Seeing Qin Tian staring at Qin Xiao in disbelief, a storm brewing in his eyes, I quickly pushed Qin Xiao out of the room and tried to placate Qin Tian with a gentle explanation. "Xiao Xiao is a smart kid, he just can't sit still. If he would only apply himself, studying would be a breeze for him. Now that he's made something of himself, his temper has grown right along with his success." He didn't mince words, scolding me harshly. "Jiang Wani, you're not neglecting him just because he's not your biological son, are you?" My eyes widened as I glared at him furiously. "Qin Tian, what are you implying? I'm the one raising the child at home all by myself. The least you could do is show some understanding, but instead you slander me like this. Go ask around in our circle yourself, find out just how much I, Jiang Wani, have sacrificed for Qin Xiao." Seeing me cry, Qin Tian's expression softened, and he reached out to wipe my tears. I covered my face, turned, and ran, standing outside the door. Qin Xiao saw that Qin Tian had made me cry with his scolding. He charged in like a whirlwind and started throwing punches and kicks at Qin Tian. "Why did you have to come back? Every time you show up, my mom ends up in tears. Why couldn't you just stay gone for good?" I waited outside for a moment, and when I heard Qin Tian snap and move to hit Qin Xiao, I rushed in and pulled the child into my arms. "Qin Tian, what are you doing? Are you trying to hit a child? If you don't care about Xiao, I do. Come on, Xiao, let's go stay at your grandfather's house." With that, I scooped up Qin Xiao and stormed out of the house. In the car, seeing Qin Xiao in the passenger seat crying his eyes out, snot and tears all over his face, I could barely hold back a laugh. In my past life, that father and son teamed up to deceive and hurt me. This time around, my first move is to drive a wedge between them, to make Qin Xiao despise his father. During the ride, Qin Tian kept calling me, but I ignored everyone. By the time we reached my dad's place, I was having a late-night snack with Qin Xiao when he finally showed up. "Wani, about this afternoon, I acted on impulse and misunderstood you. Please forgive me." I broke down into a flood of tears. "If you don't trust me, then let's get a divorce. The child can go with whoever they want. I've been married to Qin Tian for so many years, and he took over the company from me. If he divorces me now, it won't just damage his reputation in our social circle. If this gets out of hand, it could even tank the stock price. He's a businessman through and through, always calculating the pros and cons. He would never agree to it." Seeing that I had no intention of forgiving him, Qin Tian offered a few insincere platitudes before leaving. The next day, he showed up at my parents' place laden with gifts, sweet-talking them to convince me to come home. Of course, I wasn't planning to stay at my dad's forever. I still wanted to make him suffer, so after his apology, I took Qin Xiao and went back. Qin Tian was back. Every day after finishing up at the office, he would help Qin Xiao with his homework. Unfortunately, Qin Xiao was past the ideal age for cultivating discipline, accustomed to indulgence. The mere sight of a book would either lull him to sleep or send his mind wandering. In a rage, Qin Tian smashed Qin Zhao's game console and tore up his comic books. He then fetched a feather duster and began whipping Qin Xiao mercilessly. Fearing I might intervene to protect the boy, he locked the door from the inside. Don't you realize you were the top scorer in the national college entrance exams? You're supposed to take over my company one day. How is it possible you don't even know basic multiplication and division? This was what Qin Tian blurted out in a fit of rage. Outside, munching on fruit and frantically pounding on the door, my heart sank. So I'm not the only one blessed with the good fortune of rebirth. But why does a piece of trash like Qin Tian get it? In my past life, Qin Xiao did indeed become the top scorer in the national college entrance exam. Thanks to my careful guidance, he was clever, articulate, studied abroad, and eventually returned to take over the company that Qin Tian had already paved the way for. One could say he reached the pinnacle of his life. In this life, all he does is play video games and indulge in idleness. I'm afraid he won't even get into a decent high school. A few other things came to mind. Qin Tian really trusts me to raise Qin Xiao. In this life, Qin Tian is thriving in the business world, but in our past life, he constantly needed my brother's help. How did he manage that? He has the experience from his past life. He knows the ins and outs, understands the competition, and can foresee industry trends. That's how he accomplished 6 years' worth of work in just 4. On top of that, he has the audacity to expect me to tutor his son into becoming the national top scorer on the college entrance exams. If he ever finds out I've been reborn and figures out I'm after revenge, his first move will be to have me killed. Qin Tian is now the industry leader, and there's no shortage of people scrambling to curry favor with him. If he wanted to do something to me, he has plenty of ways and means at his disposal. Qin Xiao, wearing only his underwear, lay face down on the bed, wailing. He hits me as soon as he gets home. He doesn't love me at all. Why did he even come back? I hate him. I absolutely despise him. Mom, please divorce him. I'll stay with you. Shoo. I quickly covered his mouth. Don't say things like that. Your father is the absolute authority at the company. If you really piss him off, he might actually beat you to death, and I wouldn't be able to stop him. Qin Xiao reluctantly closed his mouth. My heart ached as tears streamed down my face one after another. Poor child, he shouldn't beat you like this just because you're not his biological son. Yet Qin Xiao knew he was the biological son. Qin Tian was his biological father, yet showed him no mercy whatsoever. Qin Zhao's gaze was icy, filled with unmistakable hatred. He was an ungrateful wretch to begin with. One who held grudges and forgot kindness. Mom, you're my real mom. If he hits me again, you have to help me. Mom, you have to, I said. Xiao Xiao, you're my own son. Who else would I protect if not you? Xiao Qin and I were over here, sniffling and sobbing. Qin Tian and Li Qian were over there, lost in the throes of passion. The next day, when he came back, Qin Tian said to me, "Do you remember your old friend Li Qian?" I looked up at him suddenly, unable to figure out why he would bring up Li Qian out of the blue. Suppressing the ill will in my heart, I frowned and said, "Of course I remember. Didn't she pass away? Why are you bringing her up all of a sudden? She's not dead." That year in the countryside, she fell into the water, was swept downstream, and ended up in a vegetative state. She never woke up. A few days ago, her family brought her to Jing City General Hospital, and she actually regained consciousness. She asked me to help her find a job. I remember she was your schoolmate back in the day, top of her class, won scholarships every year. How about having her tutor Xiao Xiao? It works out perfectly since the two of you are good friends. You'd feel more at ease hiring someone you trust. My eyes widened in surprise. Could it be that Qin Tian suspects I've been reborn too and is testing me? I quickly asked. What do you mean she's not dead? She just became a vegetable. Having navigated the business world, Qin Tian spoke without a trace of guilt or hesitation in his voice. He explained to me that when Qin Xiao was 3, Li Qian was swept away by floodwaters while helping with relief efforts in the countryside. After the family searched for her in vain, they had no choice but to send Qin Xiao to us. Later, someone contacted the Li family. Li Qian had become a vegetable in a small hospital. and there was almost no one left to pay her medical bills. The Li family was poor. Paying for Li Qian's treatment meant they couldn't afford to raise Qin Xiao, which is why they never told us about it. The explanation was full of holes, but I played dumb and just went along with whatever he said. I quickly suppressed the malice in my heart and said with a smile, "Sure, when can she start?" "She can start tomorrow. I'm going to see for myself whether Li Qian is really alive, or if Qin Tian is just trying to trick me." Seeing that I agreed. A faint smile finally broke through the gloom that had clouded Qin Tian's face for days. "Wani, let's go to bed." As he said this, he reached for my hand. I quickly told him I had my period and turned him down. The thought disgusted me. Li Qian is really alive, and she's standing right in front of me. So that's why Qin Tian didn't show up when Qin Xiao and I were waiting for him the day he returned to the country. He was busy settling Li Qian in, dressed in a white sundress with light makeup. Li Qian radiated youthful energy. You'd never guess she was a woman in her 30s. A gentle breeze lifted the hem of her dress as she smiled sweetly. "Wani, it's been so long." A surprised smile spread across my face as I pulled her into a tight hug. "Qian, when I heard you had died, I was heartbroken for the longest time. I can't believe you're alright. They say what doesn't kill you makes you stronger." My eyes welled up with tears. It was the perfect picture of old friends reuniting after a long separation. Qin Tian stood by, watching us with a gentle smile. Li Qian's smile widened, a flicker of pity and smugness passing through her eyes. "Indeed," she said, "what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Come in, quickly." I nudged Qin Xiao forward. Xiao, this is a student your mother sponsored years ago, and a dear friend. You should call her Auntie Li." Whether it was the sponsored student or Auntie Li, something had clearly upset Li Qian. Her smile was on the verge of slipping. Qin Zhao's eyes widened in confusion. His young mind couldn't grasp why the two mothers were meeting, or why he had to call his own mother Auntie Li. Qin Tian quickly stepped in to change the subject. "Qian has just recovered from a serious illness. You must be tired. Let's go inside." Watching Qin Tian carry Li Qian's bag, I suddenly understood why she had survived in this life. The problem lies with Qin Tian. Qin Tian was reborn, and he was reborn earlier than I was. In the previous life, Li Qian was attacked by thugs abroad. In this life, he took preventive measures and saved her in time. Qin Tian treats Li Qian like a treasure, letting her stay in the bedroom next to his study. Every night, he would work in the study, and after I fell asleep, he would slip from there into Li Qian's room. I pretended not to know and swapped the milk they gave me each night, laced with sleeping pills, with Qin Zhao's. Over the years at home, everyone in the villa had become my confidant, and I had also installed pinhole cameras in every room. After Li Qian arrived, she doted on Qin Xiao as if he were the apple of her eye. It seems Qin Tian had privately warned him that the time for mother and son to reunite had not yet come. Apart from fooling around with Li Qian, Qin Tian was also quite busy at other times. In his previous life, he lived a pathetic existence, even needing to rely on his son to get revenge on me. Given the chance to change his fate in this life, there's no way he'd let this opportunity slip by. By leveraging his understanding of industry trends and government policies, Qin Tian is really making a killing with his company. I watched it all in silence, finding it utterly ridiculous. Go ahead, build your empire, no matter how big it gets. You'll never escape my grasp. For now, just think of him as working for me. After all, I won't let him live. That night, I didn't give Qin Xiao the milk laced with sleeping pills. After Li Qian and Qin Tian were done, Li Qian went to check on Qin Xiao. It was already 3 a.m., and he was still hiding under the covers playing video games. Shocked, Li Qian scolded him. Xiao, look at the time, why aren't you asleep yet? You have school tomorrow." Hearing the commotion, Qin Tian rushed over. Furious, he gave Qin Xiao another beating and smashed his phone. Qin Xiao believed it was all Li Qian's fault. She was the reason he got beaten. "It's all your fault. Why did you have to say anything? Can't you stand to see me happy? Are you pleased that he hit me?" Qin Xiao threw a tantrum, shouting, "I hate you. You're not my mother at all. My mother is Jiang Wani. Get out." Li Qian also broke down in tears and yelled, "Qin Tian, what did you tell me? You said Jiang Wani was smart and capable, that I could trust her with Qin Xiao. Explain to me why Xiao is like this now. Tell me." I only said one little thing to Xiao, and now he thinks that woman is better than his own mother. "You're not my real mom. I don't want you. Get out. I only want Mom Jiang." Qin Tian growled in a hushed voice. "Stop arguing. Jiang Wani is still at home." "Sorry. Jiang Wani took sleeping pills. She can't hear you." The next day, Qin Tian bought me several limited edition bags for me. They were the kind that required a purchase history, the ones regular people can't just snag. Wani, you've had a tough time all these years. I bought you a few bags. I gave them a glance. The styles aren't great, and I don't like the colors either. Give them to my parents. Fine. Qin Tian swallowed his frustration. In a rare moment of humility, he said, Wani, your health has never been good, and Qin Xiao is so difficult. Raising him has been a struggle for you. Now that Li Qian is still alive, and Qin Xiao is her biological son, let's give him back to Li Qian. My eyes widened in disbelief. Xiao Xiao has been calling me mom for all these years, and now you want me to just hand him back to Li Qian. Xiao Xiao has grown up accustomed to a comfortable life, with the conditions in Li Qian's household. Do you really think he'll be happy? Qin Tian tried to reason with her. But Xiao Xiao is Li Qian's biological son after all. How can you bear to keep a mother and child apart? If you ever miss Xiao Xiao in the future, I'll take you to see him. How does that sound? Honestly, I couldn't care less, but I still threw a huge tantrum and refused to agree, saying I'd be too bored at home alone without Qin Xiao. I hinted that I'd only agree if Qin Tian let me go to work at the company. Qin Xiao was downstairs playing video games with his friends when he heard the news. He completely lost it. He stormed over and asked me, Mom, don't you want me anymore? I expertly began to cry, a trick I'd learned from Li Qian. She said if you don't blink or move your eyes, they'll get sore and start watering in under a minute. How could I ever not want you, Xiao Xiao? But Li Qian is your birth mother after all, and Qin Tian says my health is poor. That taking care of you is too much of a burden and you should be sent away. After all these years of just the two of us depending on each other, my heart is breaking too. I had thought Qin Xiao felt some attachment to me, that he wouldn't want to leave. I never expected his next words would chill me to the bone. My friends told me a long time ago that Li Qian's family is poor. If I go back with her, we'll just have a hard life. They all say Li Qian's husband died. If I go back with her, I won't be able to call Qin Tian dad anymore. And then they won't play with me. Humph. Tears streaming down my face, I said, it's okay. Qin Tian told me that even if Li Qian takes you back, you can call us godfather and godmother. That's completely different. Qin Xiao exclaimed loudly, Mom, you're a proper Beijing socialite. What is Li Qian, anyway? How could she ever be fit to be my mother? These words happened to be overheard by Li Qian, who had just walked in. She had heard Qin Xiao was back and rushed over excitedly to see her son. Only to be met with this devastating blow. She stood there, stunned. I quickly cleared my throat. Xiao Xiao, mind your language. Apologize to Qian right now. Qin Xiao let out a cold sneer. Stepping in front of Li Qian, he shot her a look of utter contempt. Since you've already heard, let me make this clear. Don't even dream of becoming my mother. You're not worthy. The only woman who can be my mother is Jiang Wani, the princess of the capital's elite circle. Then he turned and strutted away, his nose in the air. I was completely dumbstruck. In this life, I truly did spoil Qin Xiao rotten, indulging his worst instincts. I thought that by interacting with the kids in that circle, he'd at least pick up some manners and social graces. Turns out, he didn't learn a single thing. But then again, everyone in that circle is busy fawning over Qin Tian, hoping for a scrap of his attention, and they encourage their own kids to suck up to Qin Xiao. How could someone who's never had to humble himself ever learn proper etiquette? But seeing Li Qian heartbroken, it absolutely made my day. Upon hearing about this, Qin Tian flew into a rage. He had Qin Xiao held down, pulled off his belt, and gave him a vicious thrashing. A childhood without a 7 wolves belt whipping is an incomplete one. I thought Qin Xiao's childhood might have missed out on that, but in the end, he got the full experience after all. Qin Xiao's behavior earlier disgusted me a bit too, so seeing him get beaten brought me some satisfaction. Qin Xiao was far from pleased. He thrashed around like a fat, squirming maggot on the ground, but pinned down by 2 adults. His struggles were futile. Qin Tian was crying and cursing. Li Qian started crying too and went to pull Qin Tian away, begging him to stop. I played along, pleading for Qin Xiao. However, this beating served no educational purpose whatsoever. It only made Qin Xiao hate him and Li Qian to the very core of his being. Qin Tian's face flushed red with rage as he pointed a furious finger at him. You're 13 already. It's too late for school. Starting tomorrow, you're coming to the company with me. I've spoiled Qin Xiao rotten. He's not bright, has no patience, and is utterly careless. He's simply not cut out to take over. Qin Tian tried to teach him step by step, but Qin Xiao couldn't grasp a thing. Once Qin Tian was pushed too far, he'd berate and even hit Qin Xiao. With many in the company just watching the drama unfold, I suppose it's because I taught Qin Xiao too well in my past life, which set Qin Tian's expectations sky high. He's dead set on his son becoming a dragon. but Qin Xiao is a poor student with weak comprehension. He doesn't grasp a lot of things. Even a proper heir would start from the bottom at the company, right off the bat. Qin Tian started explaining his job to Qin Xiao. How on earth could Qin Xiao possibly understand, having to mentor Qin Xiao? Qin Tian was swamped every day. Tasks that should have taken 10 minutes ended up taking half an hour just for Qin Xiao to grasp the basics. This forced Qin Tian to work late into the night, so he had no choice but to offload some of his duties to me. Before long, I ended up handling the bulk of the company's affairs. Even so, it was a shame that Qin Xiao still couldn't keep up with Qin Tian's instruction. In the office, Qin Tian actually slapped Qin Xiao across the face. Qin Xiao ran out of the company, his face red and swollen. Qin Xiao was young and hot-headed, at an age where saving face meant everything. So many people in the company watched Qin Xiao, their expressions a mix of contempt, pity, and sympathy. It was a devastating blow to Qin Xiao's self-esteem. After being scolded by Qin Tian yet again, Qin Xiao grabbed the glass nameplate from the table and struck Qin Tian with it several times. Blood streamed from Qin Tian's leg as he stared in disbelief at the child he had poured his heart and soul into. Pinned down by others, Qin Xiao gasped for breath and screamed hysterically, "I said I didn't want to come, I didn't want to. Why did you force me? Are you trying to get me killed? Since you hate me so much, why don't you just finish me off?" Hearing the commotion, Li Qian, who had come to deliver lunch, rushed over in a panic and covered Qin Zhao's mouth. "Stop it. Are you trying to give your father a heart attack? Brother Qin, Xiao is just a kid, don't take it to heart." Qin Tian was wounded in body and spirit, but what chilled him even more was that Li Qian's first concern wasn't for his injuries, but for what he might do to Qin Xiao. Qin Xiao didn't appreciate Li Qian's concern. He shoved her away and began hitting her, shouting, "Stop with the fake sympathy, this is all your fault, why don't you just die?" I was in the next office and heard the whole thing with my own ears. I only rushed in, feigning urgency. Once their commotion had mostly died down, stop fighting, get Qin Tian to the hospital, now." I'd raised Qin Xiao to be too frail. He looks sturdy, but he's actually not very strong. Qin Tian had a minor concussion, nothing serious. The doctor just told him to get some rest. After examining him, the doctor checked on Li Qian as well and prescribed some medicated wine to promote blood circulation and reduce bruising. After everyone else had left, Qin Tian called out to me, "Come here." I walked over, and Qin Tian suddenly reached out, his hand closing around my throat, his gaze dark and menacing. "Jiang Wani, you've been reborn too, haven't you? You deliberately raised Qin Xiao to be like this. You're happy to see us at each other's throats like this, aren't you?" I can't admit to it. I'm not confident I can take him down completely yet. Besides, he only has suspicions right now, no concrete evidence. Qin Tian is incredibly strong. It felt like he was really going to strangle me to death. I was suffocating. A young man's voice came from outside. "Is this President Qin's room?" This is a prayer bead bracelet that President Jiang had blessed at Putua Temple for President Qin's safety. It's been kept at the temple for the consecration. When I heard President Qin was injured, I rushed to retrieve it from the temple. "Please give this to him and convey our wishes for his speedy recovery." Hearing this, Qin Tian was momentarily stunned, then finally released his grip. I slumped to the floor, coughing for a good while before I had the strength to get angry. "Qin Tian, are you out of your mind? What rebirth? What revenge? Are you dreaming?" Seeing my reaction, Qin Tian muttered to himself, "Could it be because of that?" I looked at him with feigned fear and confusion, pretending not to understand what he was saying. He seemed to have convinced himself. "Wani, I'm sorry, I was out of my mind just now. I didn't mean it." Fighting back tears, I pushed him away. He called for the person outside the door, and a young girl hurried in, holding an ornate box in her hands. Qin Tian asked, "You're saying Chairman Jiang got this for me?" "It's not easy to obtain things from Putua Temple. You can't just buy them. It depends on fate and, more importantly, your sincerity. To put it bluntly, it requires a full, devout prostration." "Mr. Qin." Chairman Jiang performed a full prostration all the way from the foot of Putua Mountain to the temple itself to obtain this prayer bracelet for you. With a look of envy, the man then handed the brocade box to Qin Tian. Qin Tian looked at me with a guilty expression. "I'm sorry, Wani. This is all my fault, as a young lady from a wealthy family. I simply can't tolerate being treated poorly." Ignoring Qin Tian's attempts to stop me and his apologies, I stormed home in a rage, packed a few things, and went back to the Jiang family house. I've been wanting to go home for a while now. All that effort I put into gathering this information is finally going to pay off. Besides, Qin Tian is starting to get suspicious of me. It's better to deal with this sooner rather than later. Qin Tian's business has grown, and with it, his nerve. It's not impossible that he'll try to have me killed down the line. Afterwards, we just need to fabricate some evidence and cook up a story. I handed over all the evidence I had collected of Qin Tian's illegal activities and business competition over the years to my brother, and I also sent him all the company's contracts. 13. Qin Tian came running to my house, begging me to come back. My parents gave him a real tongue lashing. I made him wait a few days, playing hard to get. Before I reluctantly agreed to go back, because of Qin Shao, Qin Tian and Li Qian had been at odds, constantly arguing. The sweetness they once shared was gone, and it seemed the new secretary in Qin Tian's office had taken a bit of a shine to him. That day, Nanny Zhang suddenly rushed to me and said, "Madam, it's terrible. President Qin has called Ah Huai away." When I hurried to the basement, Qin Tian was sitting imposingly on the sofa. Zhang Huai was bound and forced to his knees, his face covered in injuries. Seeing my arrival, Qin Tian sneered, "Wani, you got here fast. Seems you have quite the network." Huh. I took a seat on the nearby sofa. "I'm the lady of the house and a vice president at the company. Is it really so strange that I have a few people at my disposal?" Then I asked him, "Zhang Huai is one of my people. What has he done wrong that you felt the need to detain him?" A mocking smile played on Qin Tian's lips. Zhang Huai comes from a modest background, with a father who needs 700,000 yuan worth of special medication every 3 months. So how is he living so comfortably now? I only found out after looking into it. Wani has been supporting his family financially. I'm curious, why are you so good to them? That was Zhang Huai who brought the bracelet to the hospital that day, wasn't it? Meeting Qin Tian's gaze without a trace of fear, I said, "It's simple. Zhang Huai once did me a great kindness. Ha 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 ha." Qin Tian's smile vanished from his face. "So you knew I was reborn too?" He glared at me with a venomous look. It must have been exhausting, setting up such an elaborate scheme. I leisurely adjusted my cuff and replied indifferently, "It was nothing compared to the blood, sweat, and tears I poured into teaching Qin Shao in my last life." Qin Tian waved his hand, signaling for someone to take Zhang Huai out. "There are cameras everywhere in the house. That new secretary at the company is one of your people too, isn't she? She handed all those documents over to you, didn't she? Jiang Wani, who did you give the stuff to? Did you hand it over to the higher-ups, or to the Jiang family?" He pinned my shoulders down hard, his eyes glinting with murderous intent. "Tell me, who did you give it to?" I smiled sweetly, but my words cut deep. "Why don't you take a guess? Your competitors, the Jiang family, and the relevant authorities." Overwhelmed with rage, Qin Tian suddenly coughed up a mouthful of blood, convulsed, and collapsed to the ground. I wrinkled my nose in disgust. My favorite dress. Everything Qin Tian ate and drank was poisoned. The culprit was quickly found. Qin Shao looked at the now paralyzed Qin Tian with an indifferent expression. "They all say I'm a lost cause, that you and mom should have another kid. The main account is ruined, so you have to start a new one. But I figure, once you're gone, the company will have to be mine." Qin Tiandong couldn't move a muscle. Furious, his eyes bulged and his voice trembled. You ungrateful wretch, I'll kill you." Li Qian suddenly darted out from nowhere, throwing her arms tightly around Qin Shao, and sobbed, "How can you say that? Qin Tian did it all for your future. He poured his heart and soul into raising you. You need to understand that sparing the rod spoils the child. That bitch Jiang Wani just wanted to ruin you." Qin Shao shoved her away. "Get away from me. He nearly beat me to death. And you call that for my own good?" I just smiled and had the mother and son taken away. "Mr. Qin is in no state to go to the office. Let's request leave for him if HR asks. Just tell them the truth." Zhang Huai chimed in from the side. "Right, Mr. Qin was poisoned by his illegitimate son and is now bedridden." Qin Tian glared furiously at Zhang Huai. "Don't you dare. What are you afraid of? That people will find out you have a 14-year-old illegitimate son, or that Qin Zhao's future will be ruined in an instant?" I leaned down and patted his face, twisting the knife further. "What a shame. You've done everything for him, and he's too ungrateful to appreciate your efforts. How does it feel to be hurt by the one you love most?" Veins bulged on Qin Tian's face. "You bitch. This poison was originally prepared by Qin Tian for me. Once ingested, it causes complete paralysis from which there is no recovery." Fortunately, Zhang Huai caught on in advance. Working together, we pulled a switch and delivered the poison to Qin Shao without a trace. I have Li Qian locked in the basement. No one is allowed to see her except for the occasional meal delivery. Qin Shao was terrified of me. He fell to his knees, begging, "Mom, I'm your son. Please don't hurt me." I smiled and had him sent to the same psychiatric hospital I ended up in during my past life. instructing the staff to take good care of my husband's illegitimate son. Qin Xiao is registered under our household, with Qin Tian now bedridden and paralyzed. Everyone knows it was Qin Xiao who poisoned him. When I sent him to the mental institution, no one stood in my way. Some time later, after the successive misfortunes of Qin Tian and Qin Xiao, Qin Zhao's birth mother, the woman Qin Tian truly loved, lost her mind and descended into madness. She came at me with a knife, but I reacted quickly and only got a superficial wound. After I reported it to the police, Li Qian's lawyer claimed she was mentally unfit and lacked the capacity for criminal responsibility during the attack. The court found her not guilty. That was exactly what I wanted. Li Qian was committed to that psychiatric hospital. In the hospital, Li Qian saw Qin Xiao, who was vacant and drooling, his eyes glazed over. He had truly lost his mind. I arranged for the best medical equipment and hired the finest caregivers at home, then brought Qin Tian back. I installed 4 display screens in the room, each one connected to the surveillance feeds from the psychiatric hospital. This way, Qin Tian could see the woman and son he loved most every single day. Qin Tian's loyalists from the company tried to visit him every day. I never turned them away, but I would always give him a sedative shot before they arrived. I finally made the announcement, formally adopting Zhang Huai as my godson. A few months later, the hospital called me out of the blue, saying Qin Xiao had escaped. When I saw him again, he was standing across the street, staring daggers at me. The look in his eyes told me he was back too. Good, you're back. It wouldn't have been satisfying to settle the score without you. He walked up to me and called out, "Mom, long time no see." As the heir to the company, his demeanor is completely different from before. Every step he takes carries an overwhelming, imposing air. He stood before me and said, "You never taught me, deliberately kept me ignorant, ruined my family, and destroyed my life. Are you happy now? Feeling pretty smug? Aren't you? If not for my rebirth, you wouldn't stand a chance against me, you bitch." I watched as his eyes turned bloodshot, looking as if he wanted to devour someone. Smiling, I said, "In my last life, I didn't spoil you rotten, yet I ended up dying a miserable death. This time, I've raised you to be utterly useless. Look at how well I'm doing now." My complexion was radiant and glowing, and my attire, while understated, was undeniably luxurious. A startling intensity of hatred burned in Qin Zhao's eyes. I continued, "If you had treated me well in your past life, I would have been sincere with you in this one. Isn't this suffering of your own making? In your last life, you were the top scorer in the National College entrance exam, yet all you ultimately learned was to repay kindness with betrayal. If you can't understand the books, then you might as well stop reading altogether. The fact that I'm letting you live is an act of mercy on my part. How dare you criticize me?" Qin Xiao roared as he lunged at me, a sharp knife clutched in his hand. Unfortunately for him, by the time I received the hospital's notification, I was already fully prepared. The bodyguard I had hired swiftly and efficiently pinned Qin Xiao to the ground. "My dear son, now that you're back, it's your turn to taste the suffering I endured in my past life." I patted his flushed cheek. I had Qin Xiao sent back to the psychiatric hospital. To prevent another escape, they administered electroconvulsive therapy the moment he arrived. I watched his body tremble, his eyes wide with terror, and the dark patch of wetness spreading down his trouser leg. I smiled, a genuine smile from the heart. After I got back, I told Qin Tian the news that Qin Xiao had also returned. Qin Tian hated me with a passion, but all he could do was watch Qin Xiao on the surveillance footage and cry. Utterly powerless, how satisfying. Everyone who deserved punishment got what was coming to them. I watched an interview on TV with Zhang Huai, the rising star of the business world. Those who deserved good fortune have received their just rewards. That concludes today's story. If you've listened this far, please leave a comment saying happy every day. We at Waiguang wish you happiness each and every day.